When my father passed, I didn't care about the money. I didn't care about the will, the cars, or the life insurance. All I wanted was the house. The house he built with his hands, every nail, every board, every inch of it. It wasn't just a building. It was him. But 3 months later, while I was across the country finishing school, my stepmother sold it, without telling me. Sold the one thing he left that truly mattered. And when I confronted her, she just smiled and said, "You can buy it back when you're rich." I promised her I would. And I kept that promise. My father, Daniel Harper, was a builder, not by title but by nature. He built homes for others during the day and ours during the nights. He used to say, "A man isn't measured by what he leaves behind, but by what he builds with his own hands." He built our home on Maplewood Hill, 2 stories, cedar panels, wide porch. Every summer we painted the fence together. Every winter we sealed the windows. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. When he remarried, I was 19. Her name was Lorraine, polished, confident, the kind of woman who wore perfume that smelled like money and control. I wanted to like her. I really did. But something about the way she looked at my father, like he was a project, not a partner, made my stomach twist. He loved her anyway. And maybe that was his mistake, or maybe it was his hope. Hope that she'd soften, that she'd care about me the way a mother might. But she never did. After he passed from a sudden heart attack, everything changed overnight. I was finishing my degree in engineering in Seattle, 3 states away. I flew home as soon as I got the call. The funeral was quiet, small. Lorraine was cold, distant. She handled everything, the will, the property, the bank accounts. She didn't let me speak during the service. Didn't even let me carry his casket. And when it was all over, she looked me in the eye and said, "You've got your life ahead of you, Adam. You don't need to cling to the past." That past was my father. 2 months later, I got a call from my old neighbor, Mr. Denton. He said, "Son, I saw some strangers moving boxes out of your dad's place. Did you sell the house?" My heart sank. I called Lorraine, she didn't pick up. I called the realtor listed on the yard sign. He said, "Oh, the property's already closed, young man. Mrs. Harper finalized everything last week. She sold it." My father's home, gone. The place that still smelled like him, where his tools still hung on the garage wall. I drove all night just to see it one last time. But when I got there, the porch lights were off and a new car sat in the driveway. Someone else's car. I stood there on the sidewalk under the cold streetlight and I made a promise to myself. Not out of hate. Not out of greed. But because some things, some memories, deserve justice. I whispered it aloud. "I'll buy it back, Dad. No matter what it takes." For the next few years, I worked like a man possessed. By day, I was an engineer for a construction firm. By night, I freelanced online, drafting blueprints, fixing designs, consulting for small contractors. I lived in a 1-room apartment, ate ramen, and saved every cent. I didn't go out, didn't date, didn't buy new clothes. Every time I looked at my bank app, I saw that house. The front porch light, the red bricks, the white shutters. Lorraine, on the other hand, was doing well. She sold my father's company shares, liquidated the savings, and moved into a downtown condo. She posted pictures online, vacations, jewelry, dinner parties. Always smiling. Always in control. She never once called me. Not even on my birthday. But I didn't forget her words. "You can buy it back when you're rich." So I did everything I could to make that real. I started my own small design firm, Harper & Company. Architecture. It started as just me, a laptop, and a worn-out sketchbook. Then I landed a big client, a city project to redesign a historical library. That deal changed everything. Within 3 years, Harper & Company became one of the fastest-growing design firms in the region. We were featured in an online magazine. Investors started calling. And one morning, while sipping coffee in my small but newly upgraded office, my assistant dropped a file on my desk. She said, "Adam, you might want to see this. Maplewood Hill properties just went up for sale. The Harper residence included." I froze. It was like time folded in on itself. There it was, my father's address. My childhood home. The one I'd promised to reclaim. I didn't rush. I didn't call. I knew better than to let emotion drive the wheel. Lorraine had no idea what Harper & Company was, or that it was me. So I decided to keep it that way. I called a trusted real estate consultant, a man named Victor, and told him to make an anonymous offer through a shell company. The property had been rented for years but was now listed again because the current tenants were leaving. "Offer full price," I told him. "No negotiations." He said, "You must really want this place, Mr. Harper?" I said, "You have no idea." A week later the deal closed. And just like that, the house was mine again. But the story didn't end there. Because a few months after the purchase, Victor called again. He said, "You won't believe who wants to lease the property." I said, "Who?" He hesitated. "Your stepmother. Mrs. Lorraine Harper." For a moment I thought he was joking. But he wasn't. Turns out she'd fallen on hard times. Her condo had been foreclosed after her second husband, a wealthy investor, got caught in a tax scandal. She was looking for a quiet, affordable place to rent. And of course the one property that matched her taste just happened to be the same one she once sold, our house. I could have rejected her offer right there. I could have called her, told her everything. But no, that's not how real justice works. Justice isn't about humiliation. It's about balance. So I told Victor, "Approve the tenant. But don't tell her who the owner is." He said, "Are you sure?" I said, "I'm positive." The lease was signed under her married name, Lorraine Reeves. She didn't even use Harper anymore. She'd erased the past, or so she thought. A month later the first rent payment came in, direct deposit to Harper and Company. Properties. She never questioned it. Every month, like clockwork, her payment arrived. And every time I saw the transaction notification I smiled. Not because she was paying me, but because life had come full circle, perfectly, silently. The same woman who once laughed at my loss now lived surrounded by everything she tried to erase. My father's woodwork, his shelves, his brick walls, the same garden he planted with his bare hands. And she had no idea whose roof she lived under. Sometimes I'd drive past on quiet evenings. Park across the street, hidden under the oak tree. I'd see her porch light glowing, the same light my father had installed. I'd watch her sit by the window reading or talking on the phone. She looked smaller somehow. Older. Tired. Maybe that's what guilt does when you don't face it. It eats you from the inside out. 3 years passed before the truth came out. It happened during a property maintenance request. Lorraine called the office complaining about a leaky faucet. I told Victor I'd handle it personally. He didn't ask questions. When I arrived at the house, she didn't recognize me at first. My hair was shorter. I wore glasses now. But when I stepped into the living room and saw her face, that flicker of confusion, I knew she felt it. "Do I know you?" she asked. I looked around the house. The same photos on the wall, the same smell of cedar polish. And then I said quietly, "You used to." She blinked, studying me. Then her face went pale. "Adam?" I nodded. She looked like she'd seen a ghost. "What are you doing here?" "I'm here to fix the leak," I said calmly. "And to collect the rent." Her voice cracked. "What do you mean, collect the rent?" I met her eyes. "The house, Lorraine. The one you sold. I bought it back. You've been renting it from me for 3 years." She stared at me speechless. Her mouth opened but no words came out. Finally she whispered, "You knew?" "Yes." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because," I said, "you told me to buy it back when I was rich. I just didn't think you'd be living in it when I did." She sat down slowly on the couch, her hand trembling. For once, she didn't look like the powerful woman who'd once controlled everything. She looked small. Human. Tears welled up in her eyes. "I shouldn't have sold it," she whispered. I didn't know what else to do. Everything reminded me of him. I said nothing. Because there was nothing left to say. I just looked around, at my father's work, at the home he built, at the place that had finally come back to where it belonged. Then I said quietly, "The leak's fixed. I'll have the paperwork updated." And I walked out. People often ask what revenge feels like. They imagine fireworks, shouting, some grand confrontation. But it isn't like that. Real revenge is quiet. It's patient. It doesn't need to destroy someone, it just restores what was taken. When I drive past that house now, I don't feel hate. I feel peace. Lorraine still lives there. Pays rent on time. Keeps the garden clean. Maybe she knows deep down that she's paying for more than just shelter. And maybe that's the real justice, not punishment but consequence. Because some homes aren't just bricks or walls. They're promises. And I kept mine. They say forgiveness is freedom. But sometimes, forgiveness means letting the universe deliver its own balance. I didn't ruin her life. I didn't even raise my voice. I just waited, worked, and rebuilt. Because revenge doesn't have to be cruel. It can be poetic. It can be silent. And sometimes, it can be a signed lease with your name at the bottom. My name is Adam Harper. And this was my echo of revenge. Where silence speaks louder than anger. And justice always echoes back. Like, comment, and subscribe for more stories where betrayal meets justice, and karma always finds its echo.